We've all been playing Monster Hunter for such a long time. Sometimes it seems like it can get a little boring, repetitive, obnoxious, whatever you want to call it. I mean, personally, I can only take being thrown off a cliff from a run-a-close so many times before I have to take a break. And that's why it's good to explore the games and see what they have to offer, and what better games to play than hunting games, or whatever you want to call it. Monster Hunter games? Hunting RPGs? I don't know. But let's just dive right into this game right here. Toukiden Kiwami. So this Toukiden game, I have it on PS4, but it's also available on PlayStation Vita and on Steam. When I was walking through GameStop one day, months back, I saw this and I was just intrigued. Now, I'm not usually the one to walk into a store and buy a game without doing my research, because I've been ripped off way too many times in the past when I was younger, but I just felt like this was a good idea, you know what I mean? I'll be honest, when I first watched this intro video, I was all kinds of excited. Look at this shit. You got these little adorable fox things, you got all these cool demons, you got some girl with a rifle, loads of action, it's perfect. So basically the gist behind this game is that 8 years ago, a bunch of demons invaded the world in an event called the Awakening, and afterwards, humanity kind of had to deal with these Oni, or demons. That's where you come in. One thing that's very apparent from the get-go is that Toukiden is a much more story-driven game. Sure, in Monster Hunter you'll have to defend a town from the occasional Elder Dragon, but in Toukiden the danger is just a lot more pronounced, and you have all these different teammates to help you defend your village. It's a very simple premise, but honestly I kind of like the interaction between the characters. They're all generally likable, and they have that cheesy Japanese humor going on. Plus they're a huge help when you bring them along in missions. But they totally don't understand the concept of inside voices. They need to lower their volume from way up here down to right about here. It's like they're shouting into a microphone every time they swing their weapon, or they see a monster, or they collect something. Now I can understand important cutscenes being subtitled, but during hunts there are no subtitles and it's just like I'm slaying demons with a bunch of Pomeranians. That's better. I don't want to strangle my team as much, and now we can focus on the heart of the game, the combat and the monsters. Honestly, being a hunting game, it plays a lot like a more action arcadey Monster Hunter. Just take a look at this. Something like that would never happen in Monster Hunter. This is all about flash and style. There are 2 attack buttons and a special button that changes depending on your weapon. At first I really enjoyed the chain and sickle because it lets you latch onto monsters and fly over to them, but later on I switched to the dual blades because you could turn into a tornado. I tried a few other weapons, there were like 12 of them or something, but none of them really stuck. The polearm was neat at first, but the animations were just really kind of boring. I tried the rifle too, but it basically put me to sleep because it's such a slow-paced weapon. Along with your weapon, you also have a selection of magic called mitama. These are basically the souls of people who are eaten by the demons, and you just happen to rescue them. You can attach them to your weapon, and from that you can get a selection of spells and passive effects, and this is just a really neat system. I like it a lot because there's not a lot of depth to the armor otherwise, but each mitama has a type, such as attack, defense, healing, support, deceit, luck, and some others. And if I take an attack mitama, my spells would change to that, so they increase my attack power, or I'll have an increased chance of breaking limbs off monsters. I spent a lot of time with the luck mitama because there's a spell called random, which just randomly casts a buff on me or my party members, which I thought was kind of cool and it gave me some variety. I don't know how else to describe the monsters, but very Japanese. A lot of them are based off Japanese mythology. I mean, Oni is Japanese for demon. There are, of course, giant ogres, giant spiders, and a snail woman with tentacles. It's strange though, because the second half of the game has a lot of odd human hybrids. I mean, look at this thing. Of course, it's a cat, but it's basically a woman with a cat tail and cat ears. Another monster after that is a swamp man? I don't know, it just seems like the second half of the game is kind of generic in terms of monsters, and they're lacking that distinct personality that Monster Hunter has. You know in Monster Hunter how the monsters are simply there as part of the world, and it's almost like they have as much right to live and breathe as the hunter that's in the next area. Almost. They are the inhabitants of the environment, so they don't really seem like they're antagonists as much as animals. It's not like that in Toukiden, because you're fighting demons. The demons are only there to kill and take over the human world, so it's much more of a good versus evil thing, compared to Monster Hunter. Unfortunately, the monsters lack variety as you progress. If you thought Monster Hunter was bad at reskinning monsters, then just wait until you see these. They're hardly a different color, and I'm not really sure if they even have different attacks. Take this guy for example. His name is Harrowhath, and he is some sort of weird demon guy with 4 arms that drags himself along the ground. And then look at this totally and completely different monster, the Dreadhaft. Even the names are similar, and the only difference as far as I can tell is the color of the arms. Harrowhaft uses fire and water, while Dreadhaft uses other elements. Dread and Harrowhaft aren't the only ones like this. There's a bunch of birds that are reskins, there's spiders and giants that are reskinned, and of course that weird tentacle snail lady. On the plus side, the armors and the weapons look really awesome. Plus, if you kill that cat creature enough times, you can become a cat.
Everybody wants to be a cat.
However, it is really frustrating to actually farm items in Toukiden. There's no way to know what monsters drop what items, or if a specific drop is from a large monster, or a small monster, or just an environmental item. The names are just so vague, like, what is this? Where do I get a large horn? Where do I get an insulator? Do I really have to Google every single monster drop? There is an encyclopedia in-game that talks about all the monsters, but it doesn't really have any item drops listed. And that's not even the biggest problem I have with Toukiden. I said earlier that I really love the weapons and the combat, and I did for the first few hours, but after you hunt a few monsters, after you upgrade your weapons, you try everything out, and you get a cool set of armor, it's painfully apparent that there is no strategy for any monster. Each weapon has their own kind of combination and combos, but it never really differentiates itself between the fights. It's kind of silly actually. I was playing with the chain and sickle for a while, and I found myself pressing the exact same buttons in the exact same order between all these different monsters. I switched to the dual blades and I found myself doing the exact same thing. It's just very repetitive, and that makes it hard to play for long or even short sessions after you're somewhat into the game. There are also no items to spice up the fights, so instead you're supposed to use your magic to gain buffs and such. It's just a very shallow, one-dimensional experience after you get a few hours into it. There's also an online component to Toukiden. If you want to play the multiplayer, you're going to have to convince your friends to buy this game or find a community online and some folks that are willing to play with you. I did get into one lobby, but everyone was in endgame gear and they wouldn't do anything. So much for that. Now don't get me wrong, I don't hate the game. It has some really neat aspects like the magic system and the variety of weapons, not to mention the comfort of playing with an actual controller with much better visuals, but there's no strategy in this game. This game is super easy, like really easy, like you don't understand until you actually play it. I've never failed a mission, and the NPCs that you take along with you are literally gods. I've only seen one NPC faint a single time, and luckily you have ample time to resurrect your party members before they actually faint. So there you have it, that's Toukiden in a nutshell. If you're looking for a hunting game that isn't, well, Monster Hunter, then Toukiden is certainly an option. It's not the best, but it has some neat little features that I certainly appreciate. As I said before, it's available on Steam, PS4, and the Vita. If you're going to buy it though, I'd suggest waiting until it's on sale. Thanks for watching everyone. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Next time we're going to take a look at a game called Dragamon Hunters. It's going to be very interesting to say the least.